morning. Thank God it's Friday, July 11, 2025, on the site of Inside Nigeria. My name is Winifred Ubebo, your host on the program. On today's show, as we normally do, we're looking at what the papers are saying. And of course, we have Nigeria's most influential Friday newspaper of Nigeria's foremost Friday newspaper, Leadership Friday, first on our lineup this Friday. And of course, it's a response to the threatenings by the US President Donald Trump to impose stiffer tariffs on Nigeria. That's where the cover story is coming from today on Leadership Friday. It says why Trump is threatening Nigeria with tariff hike, coming from Tuggar. Tinubu didn't stop 5-year US visa presidency. That is a kicker to the leading story today on why Trump is threatening Nigeria with tariff hike. We are going to be moving to page 4 of the paper to read some excerpts from that leading story. Well, before we go there, let's just take other stories gracing the cover of Leadership Friday. Why Trump is threatening Nigeria with tariff hike. Tuggar. FCT arrests 210 beggars linked to criminal activities in Abuja. Another leading story today on the cover of Leadership Friday. APC chair raise Amakura Kailani Dariye confirmed bid. Akume denies interest. The story runs on page 7 of Leadership Friday. APC chair raise Amakura Kailani Dariye confirmed bid. Akume denies interest. We also have the photo of the beggars that were arrested by the Federal Capital Territory Administration in Abuja on Thursday, and as they are being deported or taken into the vehicle for FCT arrests 210 beggars linked to criminal activities in Abuja. Still on the cover of Leadership Friday, Supreme Court verdict is a new era for Edo, Okpebolo declares. Tambuwa Adoke stopped Jonathan from removing me as Borno governor, coming from the Vice President Kashim Shettima. The story runs on page 14 of Leadership Friday. Tambuwa Adoke stopped Jonathan from removing me as Borno governor. It's the same leading story, that same leading story we have as the main cover story on some of the papers we have on our lineup in this edition of today's program, Inside Nigeria. Moving ahead towards the masthead, beside the masthead, we have 22 suspected killers of Cardinal travelers arraigned. That story is on page 15 of Leadership Friday. And above the masthead, why UBA expands reach to 20 African countries, eyes further global growth. UBA expands reach to 20 African countries, eyes further global growth. A story on the cover of Leadership and above the masthead of Leadership Friday. If we're on Leadership cover, we move to the page 3 of the paper where we have our stand. Today's stand is on stop attacks on teachers. Stop attacks on teachers. A worrying trend is beginning to emerge where students, parents, and other family members assault teachers for simply trying to enforce discipline and instill proper conduct. Many of these assaults never make it to the media. Teachers bear their hurt and intimidation quietly. But the latest incident to capture public attention occurred in Ondo State on May 26, when the Vice Principal of Complete Child Development College, Aule Akure North Local Government Area, Mr. Alexander Rotifa, was allegedly threatened and subsequently assaulted by hoodlums allegedly hired by one Mrs. Dorcas Asije. The Vice Principal's scene was seizing Mrs. Asije's son's mobile phone as student at the school to prevent him from cheating in the then ongoing West African Senior Certificate Examination WASC. We acknowledge that some overzealous teachers may sometimes go overboard trying to rein in errant students. However, there are better institutional means to address such issues than brutalizing them. Attacking them for trying to do their job will discourage them and allow indiscipline to fester among the youth. This is not an option. We hold that teachers must be protected from such antisocial elements in their workplace. If they are afraid or discouraged from performing their role as agents of positive behavioral change, indiscipline will fester and the result will be a decadent society. As from today's stand in Leadership Friday, stop attacks on teachers. From today's stand, we move to the back page of Leadership, where we have conversation with Azu. And today's conversation, just like the headline story, is on again Trump's way or the highway. Again Trump's way or the highway. Let's take quote from that conversation. The African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, should mean more than paperwork. It offers a genuinely sustainable path to Africa's growth and development. Quote from today's conversation with Azu, again, Trump's way or the highway. Before we leave the back page, we always visit Ghana Must Go. And on the news, federal government NCF partner to save vultures from extinction. And Ghana Must Go replied, let them save Nigerians first. Good advice. It's on that note we conclude today's review on Leadership Friday, Nigeria's foremost Friday newspaper. Don't forget to log into the website www.leadership.ng for continuation of those leading stories and others inside pages. We move ahead to the next paper we have on our lineup, and that is we move to the next paper we have on our lineup, and that is Nigerian Tribune. Nigerian Tribune says, Ha Adoke orders stop Jonathan from removing me as governor. Kashim Shettima. SAGF was haunted globally over $1.3 billion OPL 245 saga. Jonathan. For giving everyone behind my ordeal, Adoke. The story continues on page 2 of Nigerian Tribune. However, we have so many writers beneath that leading story. Okay, a quote is actually, let's take the quote. Former President Goodluck Jonathan, whom have now recalibrated our relationship, was mooting the idea of removing me as the governor of Borno State. Tambuwa had the courage to tell the president that, Your Excellency, you don't have the power to remove even a council of a local government. The president was still not convinced. He mooted the idea at the Federal Executive Council. I admire Mr. Mohammed Bello Adoke fundamentally for his courage and for his conviction and for his capacity to stand for what he believes in. He told the then president that, Mr. President, you do not have the power to remove the governor. Of course, this quote from the leading story today on Nigerian Tribune, how Adoke orders stop Jonathan from removing me as governor, coming from the Vice President Kashim Shettima, is also the leading story in other papers we have on our lineup, which we are going to be seeing very soon. However, still on Nigerian Tribune, Akpabo removes Natasha as Diaspora Committee Chair, appoints Akwa Ibom Senator in her place. The story runs on page 27 of Nigerian Tribune. Of course, it was a trending story yesterday. I think everyone believes that is a prelude to her recall back to the Senate. NNPCL must account for 210 trillion naira, Senate insists. The story is on page 3 of Nigerian Tribune. Flood may unleash toxic chemical, poses risk to elderly ecosystem, UN warns. And second leading story on today's Nigerian Tribune, Supreme Court affirms Okpebolo as Edo governor. That story runs on page 4 of Nigerian Tribune, and that takes us to the stories above the masthead of Nigerian Tribune. Arewa Economic Forum warns against CBN's new BDC recapitalization. Size threat to northern economy, national security, seek extension of policy. The story is on page 6 of Nigerian Tribune. Arewa Economic Forum warns against CBN's new BDC recapitalization. Size threat to northern economy, national security, seek extension of policy. UB announces strategic expansion into markets across Africa is another leading story of some of the papers we have on our lineup, including the previous one before it, Nigerian Leadership Friday. Lastly, on Nigerian Tribune, Nigeria won't bow to U.S. pressure to accept Venezuelan deportees. Same leading story today on the cover of Leadership Friday, and it's coming from federal government. In leadership, the Tuggar Foreign Affairs Minister was citing reasons why U.S. Trump wants to impose a higher tariff on Nigeria. Of course, it's connected to Nigeria's decline to accept Venezuelan deportees. Now, the story runs on page 28 of Nigerian Tribune. For more, log into the website of Nigerian Tribune. It's on this note we conclude review of Nigerian Tribune. Let's move over to the next paper we have on our lineup, and that is Daily Sun. Daily Sun, same leading story with that of Nigerian Tribune. Shettima Saraki Hero 5, why we moved against Jonathan in 2015. Reveal how state actors hounded them. The story is on page 6 of Daily Sun. Leading story today on Daily Sun newspaper. Shettima Saraki Hero 5, why we moved against Jonathan in 2015. Reveal how state actors hounded them. Beneath that, Edo Guba, Tinubu governors Wike APC hail Okpebolo's victory. World Bank to Africa fees public service. UB accelerates Pan-African expansion, deepens global reach. Constitutional review, Benjamin Kalu seeks media support, Palace editors. We move to the masthead of Daily Sun. Despite 2023 part, Nigeria yet to roll out 5-year visa for U.S. citizens. Travel sector will adjust to new restrictions, NATA president. Despite 2023 pact, Nigeria yet to roll out 5-year visa for U.S. citizens. Travel sector will adjust to new restrictions, NATA president. Lastly, on the cover of Daily Sun, just beside the masthead, we have judgment in DSS suit against Utomi, September 29. And the story is on page 5 of Daily Sun. With that concludes review of front headline stories on Daily Sun newspaper this Friday. For more, don't forget to log into the website of Daily Sun. We move to the next paper on our lineup, and that is Vanguard. Vanguard says with visa war, federal government explains stance as U.S. slams tighter measures. Visa war, federal government explains stance as U.S. slams tighter measures. Says 5-year non-immigrant multiple entry visa for U.S. citizens still in place. 90-day single entry visa validity period applies only to newly introduced e-visas. U.S. introduces fresh $250 visa integrity fee for tourists, students, workers. That story continues on page 8 of Vanguard. Visa war, federal government explains stance as U.S. slams tighter measures. Says 5-year non-immigrant multiple entry visa for U.S. citizens still in place. 90-day single entry visa validity period applies only to newly introduced visas. U.S. introduces fresh $250 visa integrity fee for tourists, students, workers. Leading story on Vanguard this Friday. 2027, ADC will dislodge Tinubu APC. Aregbesola vows not to sideline state chairman Utomi Bag's coalition. That story runs on page 5 of Vanguard. Again, headers key for policemen, NSCDC officers in Benue ambush. If not for Tinubu, Buhari wouldn't have won APC primary coming from presidency in response to Boss Mustafa's statement in the Bagarba Shehu media statement to former President Muhammadu Buhari's book launch, according to the president yesterday, 2 days ago in Abuja. Presidency replies, Boss Mustafa says if not for Tinubu, Buhari wouldn't have won APC primary. Senate sacks Natasha Uduaghan as committee chairman. The story that runs on page 9 of Vanguard newspaper. With that, we move to the stories above the masthead of Vanguard. Federal government to borrow 1.76 trillion naira through Treasury bill says in third quarter 2025. Federal government to borrow 1.76 trillion naira through Treasury bill says in third quarter 2025. Shettima to APC, PDP, ADC, NNPP, we are all one. That story is on page 26 of Vanguard. Shettima to APC, PDP, ADC, NNPP, we are all one. Tinubu's reforms boosting economic recovery. Federal government. Okpebolo declares new era for Edo as Supreme Court affirms mandate. That concludes the review of front headline stories on Vanguard newspaper this Friday. We move ahead to the next paper we have on our lineup, and that is Daily Times newspaper. Daily Times newspaper says killing of 2-year-old. Senate urges Tinubu to pay 200 million naira compensation. That story runs on page 7 of the paper. Federal government to close job gap, all these key centers nationwide, coming from Shetima. Beneath the main leading story, we have Plateau killing. Governor Mutuang inaugurates 150 agro rangers. 210 street beggars arrested in FCT over criminal activities. Audit report, Senate insists Ojulari must clarify unaccounted 210 trillion naira by NNPCL. Senator Akpoti Uduaghan stripped of committee chairmanship position. Edo, Supreme Court verdict blow to justice, democracy, coming from PDP Guba candidate Aswen Igudalo, says Edo Supreme Court verdict blow to justice, democracy. Financial fraud jumps 45%. Digital platforms account for 70% of losses, coming from CBN. And that also concludes review of front headline stories on the Daily Times this Friday. For more, log into the website of Daily Times. We move ahead to the next paper, and incidentally, the last paper we have on our lineup, and that is The Guardian. The Guardian's big story today is on elderly care, emerging boom in home services, costly substitute for ailing hospitals. It's a big story that runs on pages 4 and 5 of the paper. Elderly care, emerging boom in home services, costly substitute for ailing hospitals. Leading story on The Guardian this Friday. Security operatives killed, others missing in fresh Benue attack. ECOWAS court rejects bid to overturn $10,000 judgment against Nigeria. Lagos local government polls, APC opposition parties bicker over exercise. Ighodalo assessed Supreme Court verdicts, decries robbery, betrayal of Edo people's trust. That story continues on page 6 of The Guardian. ADC coalition faces uphill tax to unseat Tinubu, says presidency, but they judge. ADC coalition faces uphill task to unseat Tinubu, say presidency, but they judge. We move towards the masthead of The Guardian. INEC deploys online party registration portal as applications hit 129. Federal government strokes off U.S. pressure to accept foreign prisoners, deportees. 210,000 naira probe. Senate berates NNPCL boss for defiance, issues ultimatum. 210 trillion naira probe. Senate berates NNPCL boss for defiance, issues ultimatum. The news continues on page 3 of The Guardian, and that also concludes the review of front headline stories on The Guardian this Friday. For more, log in to www.guardian.ng. So viewers, it's on that note we conclude today's newspaper review on our show Inside Nigeria. My name is Winifred Ogbebo. Looking forward to having you same time, same station for another fresh edition of the program next week, Monday. However, don't forget to stay tuned for news on the hour on this station. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158.